I don't know why. Oh boy, I got it. All right. All right, everybody. Is my new mantra is you know who this is, you know what show it is, so I'm not gonna say it. I realized after 9.5 years, like, why do I keep saying, "Hey, everybody, it's Ron Boehme with the Hunting Dog Podcast"? Yeah, we know, Ron, and we hit play on our player. We know whose show it is. Anyway,
I heard that for the first time not too long ago, and I'm like, oh, that changed.
yeah, I don't know why it bothered me. I think I was listening to an episode, but what you don't know who it is, maybe by the voice you do, a repeat second time in 1 year guest, Alberto. Well, I'm going to get this right. Malvarez.
There you go.
Got it. I didn't want to say
Perfect.
Malvarez. Malvarez.
That's
Malvarez.
perfect. Yeah.
So if you remember, if you all remember, I'm sure you do, because I got a lot of emails and a lot of conversation was drawn up by that episode we did with you and your brother in your YouTube channel, Upland Brothers. But where it was really going was I had met Alberto in Pennsylvania, and we hit it off like a lot of bird hunters do. And I was kind of impressed by his, what would I call it? Lack of years in doing this, right? Like basically not brand new, but relatively new, right?
Yep.
And then I watched your dog run in the PE with the Federation test. And I was like, how did this kid that shouldn't know that much train a dog? Now we might want to give Kyle Huff a shout out. I'm sure you got a lot of help
Yes.
with Kyle and a lot of other people in NAVHDA and in the Federation, but still executing it when you're the handler. I said to you, I got to get you and your brother on, and because you two are kind of like, you're not opposites, but you're not the same. You know,
Right. I would agree with that. Yes.
like you're of like mind, but he's sillier, not sillier, but he's just more excitable and younger. But so if everybody remembers, and if you don't, you should go back and listen to that episode. Alberto took his dog Lila and his brother's dog Leo, and qualified them with prize ones in the NAVHDA utility test, and signed both of them up for the NAVHDA Invitational, which I personally feel is a complete waste of my time, mostly because I didn't pass the test. But that was 19 years ago. So the sting is kind of worn off finally. So. But Alberto, you and I know this sounds like I'm pumping sunshine up your skirt, and you don't need that. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, either by experience, by age, or by me maybe saying amateur versus pro, you're the only person I know that went to the Invitational and passed two dogs on the same week. That literally most pro trainers are happy if they had 50%. Give us a little rundown how things went. I know you started on Thursday with Lila.
Yeah. So, like I said, somehow we ended up with the two dogs qualified, and so I had.
I like that. Okay.
Yeah, somehow.
Somehow.
we were. I mean, we worked for it. There's no doubt about that. We put in a lot of work, and I mean, days after, late nights after work.
Yeah.
Running out of work, running 2 hours down up to PA to just go do a 20-minute dog search, and then drive another 2 hours back home,
Yeah.
and get home by 10 p.m. at night, and then wake up the next day to go to work again.
And do
You
it
know.
again sometimes the next night.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So I mean, yeah, we did put a lot of work. There's no doubt about that. But somehow it worked out, because you know how test days are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever happened on a test day. That's usually the case.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so we ended up with them qualified, and I think I had Lila scheduled for Sunday, and I had Leo scheduled for Saturday, primarily because Lila was supposed to be in heat. So I mean, I didn't know any better. I should have just signed up for earlier days, and as I was training for the invitational, and I talked to more people, everybody was like, "Ooh, Sunday! There's gonna be a lot of birds out on Sunday." you really want to get in a little earlier than that. And so I started sending emails and stuff like that to kind of get her switch. I think it wasn't until the Monday of the week of the invitational that I finally got her switched to Thursday.
Mhm.
So she ended up running Thursday, and then Leo ran on Saturday. Um, I drove up Tuesday night, right after work. I came home, I got the dogs, I hit the road, and I think I got to Ohio Mingo Sportsman Center. I think it was 1 o'clock in the morning, and I just I just camped there on their grounds. I slept in the truck, really,
Right, right.
in
Yeah.
the front seat.
Right. Well, some people call it camping. Yeah, I call it passing out.
Yep, exactly. So I did that, and I actually got there really early because I was only like 5 minutes away from the place where they do the ceremony in the morning. So I woke up around 5. I was there, I don't know, like 6:30 or so. They did their beautiful ceremony, and Kyle had a dog running that day. So I literally just followed Kyle around all day long to every event he went on
Tuesday was the
Wednesday.
Tuesday was the first day.
It was Wednesday.
I'm
Yes.
sorry, Wednesday. So you woke up basically in the morning and then just started following Kyle Huff around.
Yeah, so he was running. We were staying in the same place, but I was getting there so late. I knew he was running a dog. I told him I'm gonna go to the camping grounds and just crash for the night because I'm gonna do is wake you up with all the dogs, and you guys don't need that. You need rest for tomorrow's test. So
Mhm.
I went there and I met him there in the morning. They did all the ceremony, and then I just followed him everywhere. The first thing he did, if I'm not mistaken, was the double mark. And then we went from the double mark, we went to the blind, and then from the blind, we went to the field. And
Mhm.
that's how his day went. To me, it was awesome because I got to watch a lot of other dogs go and see what possibly went wrong. And
Mhm.
I'm just like watching and examining everything. There are dogs having issues with the blind, dogs that are mostly, the great majority of the dogs were all pulling left towards an opening that was there in the water,
Mhm.
and that was taking a lot of people out.
Oh.
And you know when you're out pretty quick on a
Yeah.
blind,
Yeah.
so you know right away. Nobody has to tell you that score. I mean, sometimes you're kind of like on the edge, and if you have a duck in your hand at the end of the blind, you kind of know you may be there if you had to say a lot of things. But if you have no duck in your hand, you know you know you're not in anymore.
You have no duck and a dog that turns left or right. Yeah, you could be in trouble.
Yep, yep.
So you got to watch. So you kind of stuck with wherever Kyle went. You'd watch the other dogs that were at that part of the water. Now you had not been to an invitational test
No.
before, right? You haven't attended one. I'm sure you guys talked about it in length over many nights and training days. So you're there to like kind of like feel like you've been in the end zone at least, being like, okay, I know what this looks like, and I know what it looks like with that dog and that dog.
Yep.
So but here's the thing that I'm thinking in my head, because I went to it blind 19 years ago, and I didn't know what I was going to do, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think I would have been maybe have been more nervous. So after watching Kyle and all the other handlers, did anything jump out at you and go like, "Oh boy, that could be," because it's
Yes.
almost like too much information could be dangerous, you know?
It is. You know what? It can make you really nervous. I watch people that I train with do the blind and the struggle a little bit,
Yeah.
and people that I knew what they were doing, people who train really, really hard. And I saw some dogs fail, and it really hurt. And at the same time, I'm like, oh, it might not seem that easy, because like by now, I mean, we're going into the test. You kind of have a pretty good idea of how your dogs are doing. They're
Right.
either doing the blind, they're struggling a little bit, they're struggling a lot, or they're just not doing them at all. you know.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I'm watching and I'm like, oh boy, that's tough. And the Kyle ran his first dog, and that was a really strong dog. and that big opening pulled his dog. He had to do a reset, and he ended up passing that dog with a 3 on the blind. But I'm like, I'm watching Kyle with his strongest dog, one of his strongest dog that he's bringing up to the invitational
Right.
on day one, and look at what's happening. So I'm
Right.
like, oh, I'm like, oh boy, but it was only that. I think his double mark went just fine. He had that little hiccup at the blind, and then he went to the field. The field was beautiful.
Yeah.
Just I got to walk behind him. His running brace mate was fine with it, and I watched everything, how they handle everything. So I was just putting stuff, right here and just
Yeah.
writing things down in my mind, um, what people do, what people don't do, kind of like how the judges talk to you, all that stuff. So that was like invaluable, just getting to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the next day I knew it was my time, so I was trying to make us get as much of it as I could, and I did. I did. I mean, the next day when I went to do the test, I was just very focused on everything. Kind of, I knew what place I needed to go. It was not like, oh, where's the double mark? Oh, I'm kind of lost in the weeds.
Yeah.
I kind
Yeah.
of knew where I was going at least.
Let me
Uh,
ask you this. So I don't know enough about it to where they would change the order of things. It's more about it's decided early that X amount of dogs have to do water so other dogs can be in the field. Did
yep.
you know if you would be in the water first? Did when do you find that out, like your sequence?
Yeah, so as soon as you get there, if you have a female dog, you go to get her checked, make sure she's not in heat.
Right.
And then right there they have a sheet right next to your sign up sheet. You're checking in, I'm here with your dog. And then they tell you right away, you look at the whole order for the day, you find your name. There's a list of fields. If you're within this field to that field, you have like basically a running brace number. And depending on where you appear in the field, you either did water first or field first. So if you were like the first 3 or 4 braces in the field, you would do field first. You
Right.
went right to your field. But
Right.
if you were not, then you would have to go to whatever your name appear first, which could have been the double mark or the blind retrieve. Everything was already arranged for it.
Yeah, and that's got to just be logistics on their part to keep things moving. And
Yeah.
this would be, and I would bet if I was to do that in my mind, all right, I'll preface this. A well-trained dog, which yours apparently were, right, adapted to the test and did a great job. But all the others, like field, there's obviously obedience in the field, but it's really all about how good the dog. And you knew you had a great field dog, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you got to count on the backing and the retrieving, which is the backing could be natural and the retrieving could be natural, but we all know we train for that clean retrieve.
Mm-hmm.
To me, like if I found out that I was going to do the heavy obedience stuff first, like hard, I'd be like, there's so many people that go to a test like, hey, is there anywhere I can run my dog for an hour? Because I would be nervous taking this dog I know loves the field and go like, all right, buddy, I'm gonna need you to be on your best behavior. I'm gonna get to go and shoot birds later.
Yeah, especially like I had Lila go to the double mark first. So the first thing you do in the double mark is your heel sequence.
Right.
So
Oh,
just
yeah.
it doesn't get any worse than that. Like I drive Tuesday night, for I don't know, 7 hours or whatever, just in a truck. Then Wednesday, I'm just watching all the other dogs, and they're in a truck. I did get them to run a little bit on Wednesday. And
Mhm.
now Thursday, I'm getting her out of the truck. First thing in the morning, I expect her to heel down the double mark. So I'm like, it's tough because it's the first thing you do. Mind you, she's the dog that I got a 2 on healing, our first utility test. And I had to go 3 weeks later to retake the test and got her a 4 on healing. But like it's all going through here.
Oh yeah.
First thing is healing. Make sure I don't screw up the healing, all that stuff.
Yeah, I
So,
would love to be. I mean, you wouldn't want to tease somebody when they're getting ready to do that. It would be like making noise when a golfer's golfing, right? But like if you had your brother there and he's like, "What did Lila do in her first healing test?" Like, don't remind me of that today.
he gets more nervous than I am. The day I was running Leo, like on the utility test, he was walking behind me the whole time and watching.
Mm-hmm.
And we came out of the test. It's like, man, that wasn't great. I'm like, dude, it was fine. Okay. I think we're going to get a 3 on cooperation. He was a little naughty, but he didn't do anything wrong. So, and that's the way it went, thankfully. But he was getting really, really nervous just watching behind me. So I think that could have probably been worse.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe it was
Um,
best it all worked out where he couldn't come till afterwards.
yeah, it was. It probably was. Who knows?
So kind
But
of run down without like we won't beat it to death. So your first one is double mark with Lila.
yeah.
And how did that go? I mean, I don't remember your scores. I think you did really max. Didn't you max them or almost max them?
Yeah, she got a 200 max and he got a 200 max on Saturday too.
Wow.
But it was, right. I got her out of the truck. We did a little walking and, get her to go to the bathroom,
Yeah.
before my turn, get her a little healing, before
Mm-hmm.
I get up there, make sure that nothing is falling loose or anything like that. And I swear when I told her heal, I cannot even tell you who my judges were. The only judge I remember was the one who handed me the gun because I had to look at him and get the gun from, you know. Um, but when I said heal, the only thing I was doing was looking down at her face, and I was like just so focused on making sure that the healing was going well. As I'm getting close to the little place where you start turning to position your dog, I'm like picking my head and getting a little peek of where I'm going because otherwise I just keep going straight. This is me looking down at her. Um, but finally I'm getting towards the end and we get there, I put her on a sit and they tell you like, what do you want to do? Do you want to like get the duck first? What do you want me to get the gun from you for you to get the retrieve, all that stuff? So I just did what we always did at training. I said, I'm going to hold the gun until I get the first retrieve. When I send her to the second retrieve, because I didn't want any interruption between the
And
first retrieve and the second retrieve.
they're amicable about that's the way you do it. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were really great about it. They say whatever you want. If you want to shoot and give me your gun right away so you can get the first retrieve, that's fine. I said I'm gonna hang on to it until I send on the second retrieve, and
Right.
and that's what I did. Just because that's how we train. So sent her for the first retrieve. She got it right away. Brought it back. Sent her to the second retrieve. She went in a straight line. Picked it up. Brought it back. I got the duck. There was no like, oh, is she gonna drop it? Thankfully, there was none of that. So we got the retrieve. They gave me the gun, and now we got to do a heal down. Now, the entire healing score from this test comes from here. There is healing down at the blind retrieve, but that doesn't count in your healing score. That counts as part of your total obedience for the test. So I got to make sure this healing does not come loose on me, and it's healing in and it's healing out. So
Right.
I'm
Right.
only 50% on the healing now. So
Right. Right.
to make it worse, you're heeling down and the water, it's only about 5 yards away from your side. So, the dog just kind of wants to constantly look to the water and look to the water.
Right. Right.
Yeah. But we got out of there, we got a healed out and everything was very clean. There was no questions asked there. Everything was super clean.
And you would have felt like, yeah, there was nothing went wrong. So you
Yeah.
felt good. That's got to
Yeah.
give you a good start to the day. Like
It
you don't want to
does.
come out of there with the you know.
Like, ooh, I don't know if I'm in.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was clean. Then we went from there straight to the blind. And now there's dog's having issues going to the left. So now I'm being concerned. And what do? I try to send her on the right side, more to the right. So when I sent her, when I sent her to the right side on the blind, she actually came out like 30 yards off the duck to the right side. So now I'm concerned I sent her too far right. So
But you just didn't want to risk this
yes,
pull to this open water. But now
yes,
she's on the other bank already.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So she was on the other bank already. You do your little healing. They give you all the instructions. You do your little healing, and then I sent her across on a command back. She goes across, but I see that she's on the right side. Now I've seen a lot of dogs already. They all come back through different places. So by now there's a lot of scent all over the place.
Right.
So as soon as she hit that bank, I guess she must have picked up scent, but she started going left and picked up the duck right away. So I
Wow.
was like, oh, like yes. So I give her a whistle, came back all the way to me, delivered it just perfect, no problem. Gave me the duck. I put her on a heel and I took her right to the owner, right? So now I'm down to the owner. I never been down here in this place, so they have like an orange mark there, an orange circle where you're supposed to sit your dog in. And so we got there. She sat in there. They throw a duck up in the air and then they shoot it, and it's a dead duck already, so it's just a distraction shot. And then they send the other dog for a retrieve, and your dog is supposed to stay there and honor that retrieve, right?
Right.
Um, we had done like a few of those, not many. But you know what? The dog that they were using that day with us was really great. The dog went out, picked up the duck, came straight back to the handler, no problem, no interference with my dog. Didn't come all the way up to her face and show the duck up in her face like I've seen. Yeah. So, and then we got out of there with a heel. It was like great, everything was going great. I didn't have any questions that, maybe there was this, maybe there was that, and now it was all coming down to the field run.
Right.
Um,
Hey, let me
so
pick you up one
yeah.
minute, Alberto, on the honor portion, and I don't know this. It would seem to be for consistency. That same dog that you said was just really nice. He clean in and out back to his handler, which is
Mhm.
what you'd hope for. Do they use that same dog, or would that dog end up getting bored of doing that? I wonder. Do you know?
I think they have multiple dogs. They use that dog for a good amount of retrieves, and I think then they swap it for another dog.
Okay, because sometimes the dog, even a well-trained dog, could be like, I'm really tired of this going
Right.
out on this short little thing, and I wonder how they did that. Yeah, I couldn't in my memory, I don't remember how that played out. Yeah.
Yeah, no, some dogs were not as nice. Like the one I had with Leo did not do that. That one picked up the duck and went all across behind to the place where we were healing from. It
Oh,
came out behind us. So that was not as nice. And Leo like picked up his butt and looked like, what is he doing? You know?
hey,
So that was not that one was not clean like that. But yes, I mean, I think most of the people had good dogs.
yeah,
And I think they all have to be VCs too in order to be used at the invitational.
that's cool. That's cool. So now you got to go to the field. Now, is there enough time for lunch at this point? Because I know sometimes it's going to be a wait, go, wait. How long did you have between the honor and then your field work?
So I was the last brace in the field. So I did have a lot of excuse me, a lot of time.
Yeah.
So I don't remember if I went and got lunch. I might have. I think I did. I went and got lunch just because I knew how long it took. With the other dogs from being in the field with Kyle. Um, so I think I went and got lunch. I do remember getting lunch with Leo. Um, yeah, because actually I finished really early with Leo. I was done by like 1:30 with Leo. I
Okay.
did go get lunch with Lila, I remember now. And
Yeah.
then we went around and waited our turn in the field. We were the last brace mate of the field. So the cool thing was my brace mate was Andy Doak, and he has a setter, an English setter, and Everything is like, and he's an experienced handler. So that's always nice to go into the field with an experienced handler.
Yeah.
But our field run was not your typical smooth point back, shoot, retrieve. We need a couple more of those. Now do it. No, it was nothing like that. I mean, by like minute 45, this is an hour brace, minute 45. All we had was 1 point, no one honor, no retrieve, and like 5 or 6 wild flushes.
Oh,
So it was not like I thought I was gonna lose my dog. I think it was like right around minute 40 because she had the first point. So she had the first point in the field, right?
mm-hmm.
Um, so Brookie came behind. This is my running brace dog. She came behind, boom, snap a really nice back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, went there, worked the bird went up in the air, it got shot, but I think it barely got clipped, and it hit the 2 track and ran like a mile. And good thing the judges were right there because they saw it. So it's not like, it's like, all right, send her for the retrieve and let's see what happened. Let's help her out a little bit, make sure we can pick it up right away.
Right.
And no, I mean, that bird was gone. So it was like bad. I mean, really gone. So they're like, you know what, just leave it. Let's keep going. So, reset the dogs, give them water, all that, get going. Well, now the next possibly 5 to 6 contacts are all wild flushes. Um,
Wow.
so my running brace mate, Rookie, I think probably like from 10 to 15 yards. Every time she was about to lock up on point, there was a bird popping out at 10 to 15 yards. It's not even like the dog is over pressure in the bird.
Right. Right.
Not at all. Like it's
Birds
obvious
are
it's not
the
not
birds
doing
are
that.
jumpy. It sounds like the birds are jumpy.
Very jumpy. Yeah. I mean, and they were released from the same day, so those must have been pretty good quality birds, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, but this happened for like 5 to 6 birds. And at some point I was in a water top and they head out first, and the dog is not dumb. She knows that they have birds. So she is losing it. And she's not a vocal dog. In the field, she's not vocal. And I had her in this water top, and she's watching the other people, and I'm trying to turn her face away, and she's pushing me to look at them, and I'm turning her the other way. And then all of a sudden she goes, I'm like, oh my gosh. I just lost my dog right here because she's not a dog she's never ever done that. And I'm like, I looked at the judge and I said, I'm sorry, but can we hunt down this way? And by now they're like 200 yards ahead of us. And they're going up a hill and they keep finding birds for all of them. They keep busting, you
Oh,
know? And I'm like, oh my gosh. So finally we make it up to the hill close to them. And still, we don't have, this is now minute 45. We have nothing else but what I just said, a point, a back, and no retrieve. So finally, the judges go, all right, bird planners, send me a bag full of birds.
oh my God.
So now we got to start doing setups. Everything we have to do now is setups. We're running out of time.
Right.
So, and you know what? The judges are really, really good. And the judges that we had really understood what they were doing. Because the setups they did were well done. Um, everybody was moving. So I think the first one, my running bracement went on a point, and I was bringing Lila across. Lila came over the top, just over a sorghum strip of the field, and saw the other dog, and boom. I would like she was coming so fast. I'm like, but better put on the brakes, better put on the brakes. And finally, boom, she snapped it. Her 2 ears were folded backwards. That's how fast she was coming down the hill. So she backs, and then I'm like, all right, well, now I'm looking at her, and she's like she's almost like tipping forward, like
Right.
how intense she is. And I'm like doing nothing but looking at her. I have a picture that you could see my serious face, just literally staring at her. And she's like, I'm like, don't do it, don't do it.
This is
And
like
she's
your
not a
mom
dog to
looking at you.
break.
This is like your mom looking at you in church when you're getting stitches, right? Your mom give you that look.
That's right. I'm like, don't do it, don't do it. And she's not a dog to break. I'm just watching her, you know? And I could just see up here in the corner of my eye, they flush the bird and the bird goes backwards right towards the gallery and they cannot shoot it.
Oh God.
So now we got another point, another back, no retrieves. And we're
Oh,
probably into like minute 50. So I'm like, my gosh. So now the judge goes, who wants the next point? And I go, me, because the other dog just went on point.
right.
And I don't know what happened. He's like, the setter's getting the point. I'm like, oh gosh, I got to back another setup now. I'm like, oh, I'm like, all right, let's do it. So we do it again. Same thing. They left plenty of space. You know, they recommended good areas for you to come with your dog in and all that. They were really good about it, which is great.
They tried to make it as natural approach as they could. Right.
Yes. And they wanted to give your dog a good look of the other dog.
Right.
And the judges we had really, really understood that. Nobody was standing, just watching what your dog would do. Everybody was moving. You
Yeah.
can see the big target. You know, I had big white target with a big tail, which is nice.
Yeah.
So she came in, backed it from like 50 yards. Boom. Then they flushed the bird, shot it, retrieved it. We're like, great, we got a full sequence now. Now we got to do it the other way around.
Right.
So again, 55 minutes in now. So now I break the dogs this way, plant a bird, I bring her in, boom, she points it. And she's like intense because she's been running for about an hour now and she had nothing but 1 point.
Right.
So she had probably one of the nicest points I ever seen her have. She's like super intense, leaning forward, one paw up in the air. Like I'm like, ooh, I never seen that many of those points out of her.
Right. She's not like some dogs, like every point almost looks like that, but you saw this like
Yeah.
yeah.
It was like she was really like, I got a bird here, you know, like we found one. So
my turn.
yeah.
And don't
And
I look
then
pretty doing it?
yeah, no, it was nice. It was nice. And then my other my running brace came up and boom, backed it. Really nice.
Yeah.
So now we just have to kill this bird and um you know, if we get a retrieve, we're done.
Right.
So somebody told me, because you know that a live bird never really leaves your hand. And
Right.
so I was told to pick up the bird and throw it
Yeah.
up in the air. So I kind of
Is that
switched it.
because they were just planted?
Yeah,
More-
they would just
yeah.
plant it.
So they
I
wanted
mean, we're like 55 minutes plus, right? We just
they
have
just
to get a
wanna
retrieve
they
and
want
we
to
got
make
it.
it happen. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We got to kill this bird. And in case the gunners miss it, we want to at least get a retrieve out of it.
Right. If you give a good enough.
Yeah, just to get a retrieve.
Right. Right.
So I picked it, I gave it a really good squish, and I threw it in the air, and it didn't get hit.
Because it's actually hard to hit a bird that you throw in, you know what I mean? It's not like
yeah,
with the lead. Yeah, the gunners missed.
yep. So it didn't get hit, and they're like, send it for the retrieve. So I send her right away. Boom, she goes to retrieve it, and the bird takes off. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But it kind of like, it takes off and she stops. And I give her a quick whoa because I knew it wasn't going to hurt me, but I didn't want her to keep chasing it because it was a flush.
Yeah.
But it went down again real quick, kind of floated down about 20 yards in front, down the trail. They were like, send her again. So I sent her again. She went, picked it up, retrieved it. When I got that bird in my hand, I knew we were done. Like this is done. Like this is everything we needed. You know, we were getting positive comments from the judges all along, me and my brace mate.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah, and I would say that's probably not as like if there was a lot more bird contacts and a lot more back and forth, they probably wouldn't be saying, "Hey, don't worry." It's just, but they were being actually encouraged, like, you guys are doing good. just sometimes it kind of sucks out here.
Yeah.
You know, the birds are popping and you can't shoot over the crowd. And I can feel for you because whenever we train, now I know people will train for what you don't expect.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, like you said, whether it's minute 30 or minute 55 in a training day, you are going to make sure they get one good positive boom, boom, boom. And you're wondering, like, is she past that limit of saying, hey, I I know I've always been steady, but you need my help right now. But Lila
Yes.
did it. Lila did it.
Yeah, I mean, like the one time there were 200 yards ahead of us, I thought I was losing her right there. I thought it
Yeah,
was over. I thought she's gonna take off. They're
and
gonna
just
find a bird. She's gonna take off and go and steal the point. You know?
right. Yeah, because they get competitive for sure.
Yeah, they do. And it's crazy how they know. Like she knows she was being played. She knew she was like, I'm
Mhm.
getting here left behind. And they're out there and the birds are there. They're not here in the water top. And I'm tired of this water top because I already had too many of them.
Right,
You know?
right.
So
What
um
was the temperature like?
it was really nice. Apparently we had the best weather we many people ever remember having at the Invitational. It was in their 60s almost every day. The highest was 65 or something like that, maybe 70 degrees.
Nice.
We had some nice overcast days, a little sunshine here and there. So temperature was actually great. Didn't hear much about, overheating issues and stuff like that with dogs. Just the weather
Right.
was really good all around.
Yeah.
Um,
When
yeah.
when I ran in, I think it was '04. That was on Memorial Day. My dog got hit by a van
Cool.
and broke all the ribs on his left side. He almost died. He went to a hospital, the whole 9 yards, like one of them. It was like a Rocky story, you know.
Yeah.
The one thing I was hoping for, and this was in Mexico, Missouri, was I got to get him cooled down because he does not have the stamina. He's been basically rehabbing, you know, up until the invitational. And I'll say that was as many times as I wanted to get him to the water, it was fine. Like, yep, cool him down, cool him down. And it was not 60 degrees. It was hot, but it is, you could sit there at a bar or after a NAVHDA test or maybe a federation test, and people could complain all they want, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's rarely, it's the complaint's rarely a good complaint because they will, like, no matter what organization, the judges are really looking out for you and the dog. They really are.
Yes.
But
Yes.
then you can like you could second guess it. I could see you in the tub and your dog's going like, where's my 40 acres and a mule? Why are they getting to go? Is this over? And she's like, I'm like you said, I've been in enough tubs today.
Yeah,
I want to point and fetch a bird.
that's right. That's what she wanted to do. And she knew they had the birds. She was
Yeah,
not dumb about that. I mean,
yeah.
she knew she definitely had the birds. They had the birds because they did something to me interesting enough. I'll jump ahead real quick and come back to this, but I ran her on Sunday as a bite dog
Oh,
with a long hair Weimaraner.
wow.
Um, and they did that to me, and she went out of the water top and sprinted all the way out there, 100 plus yards. And I tried whistling her around, which she's really good at, and
Yeah.
that did not work.
Really?
Yeah, but she went right to the crowd, saw the other dog on point, and boom, stuck her back. So I was like, whew, at least that worked out. So
So she has a little of her own mischief, but everything else came back. Oh,
yeah,
that's
I did. Um, yeah, but we finished the field, and the judges had really good comments for me and my running brace. Me and Andy had been talking a lot throughout the days because when you have a running brace, you're going one after the other one on every
Mhm.
event. So you're both going to the water. One goes
Right.
now, the other one goes after, and same thing all the way until you get to the field.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he did really well. He actually they got a 200 as well.
Nice.
So
That's nice.
yeah.
So now, like, so you had to know that you know enough about the testing. You felt good about everything. Did you think in your head like it's a 200, or did you think they might have, or you were like, I don't want to be like count my chicken before they're hatched, but we got a 200, because a pass is a pass, but a pass with
Yeah.
a max score is pretty good.
Yeah, so I had a little doubt on my retrieve, the only retrieve I had,
Yeah,
because when she came back to me with so much speed, she kind of ran by me a little bit, and I said her name, and
yeah,
she quickly came to me. So I've said, maybe that was a 3 on the retrieve, but I don't care. I think we're
right.
in.
Oh yeah,
And
you'd still pass. Yeah,
yeah, so but it was, and they still marked it as a 4. I think that it probably just wasn't enough to get you down from that 75% plus, kind of how they gauge the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4.
right,
So
right.
I think it was just about there. That they gave me a 4. So I was surprised when I got the 4. You're always trying to be a little harder on yourself.
Sure, sure.
And when they start reading all the scores, and when you got a max, when everything they read is force, and now they're down to obedience, cooperation, you know. So if they read all the other stuff and you got fours,
Yeah.
you got all fours all around, and I was just static. I couldn't believe it. It was just, I mean, it was more than I ever wanted. It was more than I ever imagined doing. I never ever thought about being in an invitational test. I mean, I didn't even know what NAVHDA was 3 years ago.
Right, right.
Um,
That's what I
so
started this off with. I was trying to figure out a nice way to say, I, I got a pair of socks that are older than your amount of years in training dogs, right? And
I think so.
and, and you knocked it out of the park. But I remember seeing you at that federation test, and I remember, I mean, it adds, and I can't help but say, because I don't know if there's always new listeners to the show, and there's obviously ones that listen to every episode and ones that skip episodes.
Mhm.
And the great backstory why I wanted you to come on the first time was the path that you got your dog, which we won't go into, other than you and your girlfriend at the time, you started Googling short hairs and you found some Amish breeders, and the $400 dogs didn't answer the phone, and the $500 dog answered the phone. Like
Yeah, the 300 didn't answer the
the 300
400.
didn't answer the phone. So
I
you
got a funny one for you on that. Do you know I spent $400 on my last training on birds before the invitational?
so you your bird bill was as much as you spent on your dog.
It was. My friend Rick looked at me and said, "You don't really need 40 birds." And I said, "Well, they told me there could be a lot of coveys. So you know what? I'm all the way here. I'm gonna buy 40 birds. I'm gonna have 20 for each dog." And we were doing doubles and triples and quadruple flushes the last training that we did before the invitational. And my brother and Rick were getting to shoot. I said, "Shoot as many as you can." And they were shooting 2, 3, sometimes 4 birds. But that
Wow.
was our last training. And it wasn't like it was a pure coincidence. I paid exactly $400 that day on birds, the last training before the invitational.
So the two receipts in your truck are Lila, $400, Chuckers, $400.
$400.
That's fantastic. I mean, like I said, I don't know because I don't have access to the stats, and I would have to believe that if nothing else, I don't know. I'm sure somebody's run two dogs, but I don't know that anybody's run two dogs for the first time and then passed. And then if you want to take it, like if somebody goes, "Oh yeah, Bill Williams did it in 2000," and say, "Okay, how many years was Bill running dogs?" Well, maybe 10. And then say, "Okay, where did Bill get his dog from?" "Oh, he got it from Clyde Vetter," right? You
Yeah.
you got this unknown quantity which was just, you know, there should be a movie. There should be a movie about this dog. But the problem with movies, it would have to have like the funny start, and then there'd have to be drama in there where it almost didn't work out, right? You haven't had any drama really.
I mean, I kind of did. I
Other
mean,
than healing in the first.
yeah. Well, and my first test was 104 NA3, you know, and I don't know any better.
Right,
She had force and everything, and a 1 on track and 3 in collaboration. But
right.
right after that, I'm so far into this, I already want another dog, and I want a NAVHDA bred dog.
Mm-hmm.
So I always remember my good friend, friend's word, Don Todd. He's the one that got me into NAVHDA.
Right,
And he said to me, when you get the other dog, don't leave Lila on the side. She's a really good dog. And I said, no, I'll never do that. I mean, just because she didn't get a price one NA, I
right,
mean, I think she has a ton of potential. And that's the one thing that I didn't do. I didn't just left her on the side. You know, I spent a lot of time with her, and we trained for
right,
the utility, and we had struggles. I mean, I was gonna test her UPT, and she got sick, and I trained all year long, and I couldn't test her until the following year, and I finally got to test her. And now when I test her, I get a 2 on healing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know. And then I got to go to the next test. Good thing, because what happened was I signed up for a test that opened up right before, like 3 weeks before I
mm-hmm.
was supposed to run with her. And I
Yeah.
said, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go run that test. And if anything wrong comes out of it, I have the other test. And that worked out good because the healing came out of it. And I got a
Right.
2 on healing.
And the difference between that's a good philosophy to play that game. But I have seen people literally, back in the day, there was a lot of tests that weren't filled up. You know how tests are now. They're filled
Yeah.
up, right?
Everything. Yeah.
But there'd be tests where we have a busy Saturday and a light Sunday, and I'd see people go like, well, I'm going to run my dog over again tomorrow. I'm like, yeah, you had at least 3 weeks to go like, okay, let's work on this,
Yeah.
because the next day it would be laughable to think the next day it would be different. Yeah.
No, you're bummed out.
You could have got a 1 the next day if you did it the next day.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I was bummed out. I mean, I knew I screwed up. The dog had an amazing day. I mean, she was really good all around. I screwed up because I was shuffling my feet every 3 feet. If I only walked faster, we would have been fine. We got a 3, you know.
You were absolutely like new handler nervous or something. Yeah.
I didn't even know what I was doing was wrong, you know.
Yeah.
And it was like completely on me. So now I'm here feeling all bummed about it because I know I screwed up. And the dog had an amazing day. I mean, when she finished, I thought we had a prize one. I knew the healing wasn't great, but I didn't know that every time I stopped, that was a command.
They were
I did that like 5 times.
Yeah, they do tend to frown on that a little bit. They're like,
Yeah.
boy, did your dog need? So she was really probably doing a good job in healing, and you did a bad job in handling.
She did an okay. So like the healing there, you're going right into the water and then you're making a left.
Yeah.
So when she saw the water, she was trying to get ahead of me the whole time. And so I was
Okay.
stopping so she would correct herself. And
Right.
every time we did that, we did it like 5 times. So by the end of the walk, I remember Tim Otto was there, and we finished everything, got the retrieve, and on the way back he was parked next to my truck, and I said, well, I guess that was that. So maybe I get a 3 on that. And he goes, maybe. He knew better.
Yeah. Like maybe. And
yeah.
if there was a subtitle, it was said, not a chance in hell.
Yeah. And you know what? Like he was my gunner that day. And he saw me at the water doing the duck search and all of that. And like he knew I was having a good day. But I'm sure when he saw me, he was like, oh my gosh, he just screwed up everything that he was doing good for the day, and didn't even know about it.
There was a couple of brothers, speaking of brothers like you and Adrian, back in the day, Rich Baker, and I can't remember his brother's name, but they went to the Invitational twice, and if I'm not mistaken, blew it on healing twice.
Yeah,
And,
really?
but you could
Wow.
get a lot of utility tests. You could sign up again quick, and they would. But it was that off leash healing, you know,
Yeah.
that I'm speculating. He obviously was relying on utility healing, and when it came to off leash, dog just like, nah, I ain't having it. So
No.
imagine missing the invitation on heal. It's one thing to miss it on utility, but yeah, I think it was twice. I think if
Oof,
I'm not mistaken.
that's tough. That's gotta
Yeah.
be really tough. I have a friend who's that happened to, and I mean, they put a lot of work and it just happened. I mean, sometimes you train and you train and it's fine. And then the day of the test, just like it happened to my friend, you're healing down and the water is right there, like 5 feet away on your right side, and all your dog wants to do, it's go into the water. So, if a dog that's got a lot of desire, it's gonna constantly want to push into the water. And when that desire takes over that cooperation and obedience, it's hard. It's hard
Yeah.
to break it off from that. And that's
It's
what happened to my friend.
and I think, speculation, but probably happens a lot because people have to travel to test. Like, you might get it pretty good at your home grounds or your home training, and a dog goes somewhere new, and it's like, almost for a minute they're like, maybe he's really taking me hunting today. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm not training today, right? He's like, hey, the water.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what happened with us in our utility test. Our healing was fine in our grounds when we were training. But we're on our ground, you don't see the water until you're right there on the end,
Right,
you
right,
know? And now this one, it almost looked like we're walking right out the water to do a dock search. And
right,
when we're doing a dock search, there's never healing for us in a dock search.
right.
It's like drag me to the send point,
Yeah, he's like, come on, let's go. I want to show you how good I am. Yeah. So,
So
so that's Thursday, right? You
yeah,
went Thursday, and now you've got Leo to run on Saturday.
yes,
And
yes,
Leo is your brother's dog that
yep.
you, I would say, I'm sure he helps in training, but you ran it and you've trained it. Um, were you at the? I'm going to guess here, and you correct me if I'm wrong. Did you feel? You know how we always say, like, there might be the person who's like, oh yeah, I've been having trouble with the blind. A blind is tough on especially a lot of bird dogs,
Yep.
especially high energy. Did you have was there anything with Lila that you thought would be the challenge, or did you feel your training was pretty clean?
My philosophy, and I say philosophy, but really my way of thinking
Your
about testing,
experience, yeah.
yeah, and it has been my experience so far. Before I go into a test, I gotta have consistency,
Right,
right?
right.
So with me, the whole thing with the blind was every place I go that's new,
Mm-hmm.
my expectations is the dog has to come up to the same point. I have to say back. They never seen the place before, and they got to go across and
Mm-hmm.
find a duck on the other side. So we spent a lot of time traveling, and I would do it sometimes even during the week. Um, After work, trying to I'm like on Onyx looking for like maps and drawing lines to like, okay, from this shore to that shore, it's 100 yards. Oh, that's 80. Oh, so I'm
Yeah.
checking on everything, oh, I don't know that I can get there in that access. That's a game line or whatever. And
Right.
so this is me at work. So,
Oh,
so that after work I can go and run the dog on a blind. So,
I bet you
uh,
that employers do not know how much time has been wasted by dog testing handlers.
I don't think so. If my boss is listening to me, he wouldn't be too happy about it. He will be okay and forgive me because we do okay and we usually don't have problems.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm like in between one thing and another. I'm like checking one thing, and so I went to different places, right?
Yeah.
And we had consistency every place we went with both dogs, and they were both going across. So
Yeah.
we did by doing that, I found that I had some holes in my training of how I was lining up the dog.
Mm-hmm.
I'd sometimes didn't have them properly lined up. The other thing I did that was a mistake for me, when we did all the groundwork on the field, we would just do straight to the other end where there is a big piece of grass or cover,
Yeah.
pick up the bumper, come back straight to me. There was never like, I'm gonna send you diagonal there and do that. We're doing,
Yeah.
go to that flag, bring it. Then I would turn 90. I would have another flag on the other side, go to that flag. It was always straight out. Well, when I got to these places to make up distance, I was sending them diagonal. Guess what? Lila taught me that I was doing it wrong. Because every time I got to this one spot, and I'm like, if I send them straight, I got like 80 yards. But if I send them in diagonal, I have like 95, you know?
Right.
So I started doing that. And every time I send her in that diagonal, she would go straight. And I'm like, no, like what is going on? We've been doing it fine all this time. So after like 3 times of me sending her back and forth and she's doing exactly the same, I'm like, okay, well, let's shift down the short, make it a little bit easier. Well, now I shifted down the short, it's still a little diagonal, and she goes straight. And I'm thinking she was going to something that was calling her attention previously. She wasn't. She was only going straight.
You're just going
Because I
straight.
noticed that on the second one, then I moved down the shore a little more. She was doing the same thing, going straight. And so finally get down the target and I send her across. Boom, perfect. She does it.
Nice.
And I'm like, oh, I was screwing that up. So I see Kyle next time we're training. I said, hey, this happened to me and I think I was screwing it up. He's like, yeah, the only thing you ever taught him was go straight across.
Right.
He's like, I don't do the diagonals and stuff like that because you're confusing your dog. It's not what you train for.
Right. Right. You want to be as 90 or squared up as possible. And you were just looking for some yardage.
Yes, I was
But
thinking distance.
to her,
Yes,
there's the bank. Why are you making me go on an angle? Yeah.
yes,
That's
yes.
cool.
Because she would start in the angle and then turn and go
Right.
straight, And so I was like, but by doing that, I got a lot of exposure to different waters and I got consistency. So my whole thing before the test is I gotta have consistency, and I gotta have consistency in the field, and I gotta have consistency in the water. So we did a lot of double marks. We did double marks in PA. We did double marks multiple places in PA. We did double marks in a couple of spots in Virginia, um, or Maryland, I should say. We tried doing blinds there too. We went to just multiple spots, right?
Right.
And finally, we had good consistency. To me, the best thing is like, we never been here before. Get out of the truck, go down to the water, do a 50-yard heel, send them across, and they went across, picked up a dock, and brought it back. And there was never any doubt, like, should I not? When we were there, then I felt like
You
we
were
were where we
prepared.
needed to be. Yeah,
Yeah, you were prepared. Yeah.
yeah.
If
So
something happened, it would have been what happened to all the other dogs. It would have just been, I, this is total speculation because some of the dogs that didn't pass, I don't know who they are and I don't want to know who they are, but I'm going to guess that those dogs probably veered off to some open water other times. Right.
it
And then,
could be.
and then they're like, oh, there's option B. you know?
Yeah.
And where your dog was being pretty honest. She's like, why are you angling me? You told me to go across, so I'm going across. I remember when I ran, the one thing I was proud about was the blind retrieve
Hmm.
because he was a dog that I trained with Al Harmeyer. We were working in Virginia and we were working on our dogs for the invitational. And he really was a really good retriever. And his daughter Tracy over the phone explained to us to do the baseball and the
Yeah.
overs, the backs, and I could literally stop him if I wouldn't do it at the invitational, but if he got off track, I could stop him. He would turn in the water and look for the
Yeah.
guidance.
Yeah.
And that was the one thing when you take a pointing dog and turn him into a
Yeah. Yeah.
blind retriever, to me, that's pretty goddamn cool.
I saw some people do that and save their biscuits on the blind. And
Yeah.
I cannot tell you, I was like, wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing. I mean, to have that tool in your pocket,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
And you
priceless for
you just did
something
it
like this.
basically on just blind. You didn't do the whole Labrador baseball thing or anything.
No, so I did the baseball thing in the field,
Yeah.
but it
Okay.
was more like rectangles. Like I would send one way for a retrieve,
Hmm.
get that bird, turn 90 degrees and send
Oh,
to the other
gotcha.
side.
Yeah.
And I would position myself in different places so that one of those retrieves was maybe 40 yards, the other one was 60, the other one was 80, the other one was 110 or something like that.
Right. Right.
Um, but when it came to the water, all we did was straight across.
Right.
And
Right.
if it depends. I mean, and I just, the way Kyle does it is he tries to do a straight across because he doesn't want to build a lot of dependency of the dog on you. Um,
Right. Right.
so the one thing I did, and I did this kind of like as I went out to venture on myself during the week, sometimes it didn't come out on the other side where I needed it to come out. And I didn't want them to come back to me unsuccessfully. So once they were in short on the other side, the one thing I tried to do was I would double whistle them like I typically do in the field to change their direction.
Right.
Or sometimes I would say their name, and like Lila, and then I would go like this with my hand and like back or to the side and take a couple of steps. And surprisingly enough, they did pick up from that little training because it didn't happen every time to the point that it worked out.
Yeah.
Because the day that I ran Leo, I had to do that with Leo. I
Mm.
sent Leo like I sent him a little bit on the right side, but as he went to the other side, he kept opening a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more to the right side.
Yeah.
On that blind, he came out like 40 to 50 yards on the right side of the duck. And I'm like, all right, turn left, turn left. He tries to turn left and he gets hit on the face with a bush. And then he turns right, and I'm like, oh no, there's nothing that way. So so I
Yeah.
double whistle him. I gave him like a couple of seconds. I thought he was gonna keep running that short. I double whistle him. He turned around.
Wow.
And would you believe he went, turned around, hit the edge of the woods? I lost it for a little bit and came out in the clearing and went straight to the dock. And I was like, I was like, yes, you know, because that one was questionable.
Was
I
a little scary on your side. You're like,
yes,
uh-oh.
yeah, he
Uh-oh.
was far on the one side,
Yeah.
but it came in handy the day of the test,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we saw things like that. I mean, there wasn't a time where we were not able to save it when we were training. I mean, I had to throw out couple commands or couple of
Hmm.
words or whatever, but somehow I made it work and that they understood what I was asking them to do, and they
Right.
ended up picking up that duck in training. So I knew that if that would happen on the test, maybe I had a way
You-
to steer them into where the
Yeah,
duck
you
was.
had a chance of turning them. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was going to cost me some points, but whatever. It's a passing game.
Right. Right. So now you got your celebration
Yeah.
on Thursday. You're feeling good, but now
Yeah.
you got to do this again on Saturday.
Mm-hmm. That's
So
tough.
so how was Leo's day? I mean, we know that you maxed the score, but did it start out in the water again like your other one, or did you do field first? What did Leo have for the day?
He went blind first. He was the second dog in the blind of the
Okay.
day. And then we went to the double mark, and
Hmm.
then we went to the field. We were done by like 1:30 with him. It
So
was a really short day.
in your water portions, were you feeling, especially now that you ran one, did you feel like Leo, other than that little scare,
Hmm.
did you feel like you were good with Leo too?
Yeah, he was pretty strong. I think he was better at blinds than Lilac was. He just naturally likes ducks. Like I could send him across and he would get me a retrieve, and I could do that all day long with him. And every time he goes out, he's excited to go out and get the next duck.
Right.
So Lila, she likes it, but
She doesn't
is not
love it.
her favorite thing. You know,
Right.
her favorite thing is the feel, you know.
Right.
So I
Right.
mean, I could send her, she would do it, and I could send her 2 or 3 times and she would do it, but she's doing it only because I'm asking her to do it. I know that, you know.
Right.
If it was her thing, she wouldn't want to be doing that. She would want to be in the field, you know, if
Right.
she had to choose. So, but Leo, I think he would probably choose waterfowl over upland because he likes it that much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I wasn't concerned with him on the water, but I mean, I was the second dog of the day. There wasn't gonna be a lot of scent and scent trails out there like what happened
Right.
with Lila.
Right.
Um, so my running brace mate was the first dog to do the blind, and I was the second one, and I didn't see what happened with him. But I was the second one. I think more than the running, I think it's a lot of the mental game. Um, before he ran, because and me and my brother talked about this. When we got Leo together, we really wanted to, you know, invest a lot of time in him, and we got a NAVHDA dog. So my email out to the breeder Anita Ways from Guard Bonita GSP was, I'd love to have a puppy from you. My goals are to run him NA, run him utility, and if things work out, one day take him to the invitational.
Right.
That was always what I wanted to do with him. You know, I really wanted my brother involved. So he started running him NA, and then I picked him up because he was doing, you know, he was getting married. So I started doing utility training with him. That's
Hmm.
how I ended up with Leo also running him for the invitational. So, you know, me and my brother were talking right before the test, and my brother said, whatever dog you run first, because Leo was supposed to run first, he said,
Right.
don't get to your head and stay concentrated for the next dog.
Yeah.
And when Lila passed, yes, I was super happy. But the one thing I knew is it wasn't complete. I still had 50% more to go, you know?
Right.
And so I think he was running Saturday, I think a Friday night they had the banquet,
Hmm.
and I skipped that. I didn't go. Um, and I didn't because I didn't go to the invitational because of me. Honestly, in my opinion, I had the dogs gave me more than I ever wanted, and I struggle with the decision of going to the invitational in January because I knew it was going to take a lot of time.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to take a lot of dedication. I mean, I was going to be away sometimes for training and stuff like that, more than I would normally be.
Hmm.
Um, but finally I said, yeah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it for them though. I'm not gonna do it for me. So
So wait, that means you're not gonna get a license plate that says,
no,
uh,
no,
that's my guy.
no,
You're
no,
my guy.
no, I'm not gonna get a license plate that says
Thank
VC
you.
Lila or
Thank
VC
you.
Leo
Thank
or
you.
here are my two VC dogs. No,
Right.
they're just common dogs like anybody's dogs, and any other dog that it's not a VC could still whip them up in the field and do better than them, you know?
Right.
That's
And,
the reality.
and I would guess a little of that is, I don't mean coming from where you came from, but coming with your start, you really did this because you're like, wow, this is cool to help mold this dog into something. You weren't looking to get fame and fortune from running the test. You're just like,
Right.
wow, I love these dogs so much. I want to see what I can put to, and I can tell you that I know enough. I never judged the invitational. They wouldn't have me, even though I was qualified to. They know that I'm not that serious. But I also know how many people I've seen in utility overtrain their dogs and not be able to recognize that dog really, there's a major hole. And like, why do you beat your head against the wall? You kind of came at it with like this love of this new thing. And you basically, whether it was, I'm sure it was mentoring from a lot of your friends, but you came at it with, you weren't doing it for you were doing it for the dog, even though we know that the dog could care less, right? The,
Exactly.
the dog, you can put that plaque over his food bowl. He's like, well, put some peanut butter on it and I'll lick it, right? I don't give a rip. But
Ah,
if you overtrain a dog, just like an overtrain a, and I've heard this, I follow MMA and I do jujitsu and all this stuff.
yeah.
You overtraining is not good.
No, and the one thing I didn't want to have was a sad dog
Mhm.
going to a test because
Right,
I wanted a title on a dog and I put all this obedience in a dog.
right,
If it needed to be that way, then I didn't want to do it. I mean, that's
right,
a reality of it. I wasn't gonna do it. I mean, I like my dogs to be happy. I mean, to enjoy what they do. Yes, I mean, we're training. I mean, there are going to be corrections and here and there, and there's some
right,
expectations that we have to set up for them. But I mean, it was not by any means in my thoughts that, you know, I want this dog to do this and this and this and this because that's what I want, you know.
right,
It was more of like, all right, we're gonna meet the test standards. That's what they're asking for.
right.
Um, you know, and that's what we're gonna do. Like, in fact, I don't even heal my dogs anyway. That's why, like, I got a 2-1 healing, because that's just me. We don't heal anywhere, you know. We
Right,
just get
right.
them out of the truck and let's go, you know.
Oh,
Exactly.
and
So
what is what does Adrian say when he shoots a bird?
let's go. That's exactly what
Oh,
he said.
so I don't want to skip it, but so water went good with Leo.
Yes,
And see, did I think I saw Leo when I went back to Pennsylvania. I think I did.
you did. You actually, I think you judged both of them on their PE level.
Yeah, yeah.
I ran
But
them both the same day. I
for
did
some
Lila and
reason,
then I did Leo.
I
You
re,
said he had the saber tooth. Remember that?
oh yeah, I did say that. I forgot about that. Um, but I remember because it was new to me judging for the federation, and so trying to keep my eye on two dogs. And
Yeah.
I just remember, like, I think Lila was the first one. I'm like, she stuck a back. Now, granted, it was open ground and it was hilly, and she stuck this back that was so far away. I'm like, what are you backing? You know? So I sadly don't remember Leo's performance as much as I remember Lila's performance. But
Yeah, it's probably because I mean that's how we hit it off,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. And I kept thinking, like,
with
wow.
talking and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean you judge Leo.
Mm-hmm.
They did well they both did well on the federation
Yeah.
PE level. So I mean, and going back, I mean the PE level for the federation was a great tool, in my opinion,
Oh
of how to
yeah.
measure what I was doing also for the invitational. I think it's a little
Right.
bit harder test,
Oh yeah.
for sure. And I started looking at data of dogs that ran the invitational and were VCs,
Mm-hmm.
and dogs that ran the PE test and started looking at their scores, right?
Right.
So I think every dog that I personally knew that ran the invitational and ran the PE test, they were all above 190 points
Wow.
for the PE test. And the max is 210. So max is perfect, 10 out of everything.
Right.
Um, and I think Leo was 197 and Lila was 202.
Yeah.
So you know, that was like, all right, we are in the right track, you know?
Yeah, and you're ready to run with a brace mate because you have to run with a brace mate in that test.
Yes,
And
yes, it's exactly that way.
so you're training, you're basically prepping yourself for the versatile championship by running the PE test.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I can't wait to, I only judged once this year, but I'm sure I'll get a few assignments in next year. And I love watching that the two dogs because you could take the best utility dog and he can't without training or prior experience. I know people that would go to AKC tests just to run with a dog because you can run with your brother or another friend in training, but test day is always test day. Dogs know it's test day too.
Yes.
So running on those tests when you run with a brace mate, NAVHDA doesn't offer that until you get there. So yeah,
Right.
that gives you that really good feeling of confidence in the field. Doesn't and with the water because in the PE test you're doing water, water, water. You know,
Yes.
yeah, that it is a great setup for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that worked out really, really well. So I mean, I had a gauge of that test. We have been doing consistent good work. I mean, after I did that test, my whole thing was we got to get the blind in place, and we
Mhm.
got to get just the practice of the double mark, and
Yeah,
get
that
the
would be the
sequence in. But then it was what, Friday, the night before the invitational, and I said to Kyle, I said I'm not gonna go down to the banquet. He wasn't running any dogs the next day. I said I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna spend some time with Leo because I ran Lila Saturday. We are up here since I'm sorry, Thursday. We've been up here since Tuesday. He
yeah,
spent a lot of time in the truck. So I said, I'm just gonna go lob him up, throw some bumpers for him, get
yeah.
that bond there. So that's what I did. I went home early. We threw some bumpers, and then I had him sleep with me that night before the test.
I love it.
And
I love it.
and that was the whole thing, because I wanted him to feel that he wasn't getting left out, because
Right.
we've been here for a while now, and none of the two have been getting a lot of attention. And the first one who got attention was Lila, and then now it's 2 days after that, and he hasn't
Yeah.
gotten any attention. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what we did. We spent some time, and then we slept together and cuddled the night before the test, and then we went out to do the blind first thing in the morning.
Did you whisper to him a little bit and tell him he was a good boy and he's gonna do good tomorrow morning? I would.
I just he kept on looking out of the window, and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Just come here, come here.
Right. You're trying to be a cuddly guy, and he's trying to go like, where's my turn?
Yeah. Um, so, I did not want to lose that out of sight. I knew we have 50% more to go. And so the next day, the first thing we do is the blind. And like I said, I sent him. So I got to the instructions, and Mark Wellen, he goes, do you want to hear the instructions, or you just want to go with it? Because it's the second time now I'm doing it. I'm like, I'm just gonna go with it. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
So we go there, send him for the retrieve. He comes out like 40, 50 yards. I give him a double whistle. He turns, goes right to the dog, comes back. Now, when he comes back to me, he doesn't come straight back to me. He comes out right where they launched the boat from. And there's a little hill there because they made some kind of like ground. They fixed it up a little bit, and it's kind of hilly. So he came out there, and he went, rather than coming straight down to me, he did a drive by the judges with the duck in his mouth, and he's wiggling his tail, and the duck
Oh.
in his mouth. And all excited about it. And Marco say something, and I say, Leo. And then he looks at me, he comes down, brings me the duck, delivers it to Hannah. I'm like, okay. That was a little close, buddy. That was a little close. So we then did the healing to the honor. And then, like I said earlier, when the other dog retrieved that duck, it came out right behind us where we did the healing. So
Right.
when Leo saw him come out that way, he picked up his butt, never got out of the circle, anything, just picked up his butt and looked at the other dog like,
It's
what
like,
are you doing?
hey.
And then, like, everybody knew anything after that, it's not a proper test or a fair assessment. So right when that happened, Mark was like, just go to your dog and heal him away. So even before that dog made it out to the made it back to the handler, I went and I said heal, and I got him out of there, and I healed him away. I was like, whew, that was a little eventful, you know?
Because you didn't have to do that with Lila, and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, shit.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing like that happened with Lila. And so we go down to the double mark, and he is he's a little, I mean, he's a little saucy because he's been put away for a while, and
Yeah.
he's excited. So I get down to the double mark, and I'm doing some healing before it's my turn, just to make sure healing was in check, just because I knew that was my weak part in the entire test with everything, because I don't heal.
Right.
So I go there, finally get to my turn, and right before, like literally right before they give me the gun, and right before I send heal, they give me the gun, they give me the shells, and he's sitting next to me, and he's going, oh, and he's rubbing his shoulder next to my leg, like, oh. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna lose this dog right here. you know, I'm gonna lose him right here. And I waited for him to settle down, and then I said, heel. And then we took on the healing just like I did with Lila, just looking at him, and the healing was fine. And I was like, I was finally able to breathe, but I thought I was gonna lose him there, seriously. um, we did the double mark, everything. The retreats were fine, straight out and back with both dogs, and healed out was fine. So we knew that was clean. Um, and I mean, I had a couple things that I had to say in the water, a double whistle or a whistle, and his name to get to me. And so, but I think, I knew I was in. I was expecting a 200, but I knew it was in. So
Yeah.
I then ran into Kyle in the field because he was being a gunner, and I told him what happened, and he said, "Nice job, man. You got force and everything so far." I'm like, I don't know, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna go and do the test. He goes, yeah. He said Leo is really strong in the field. Just go get it done. So then the dog that I have, I actually, that's a brace may, went out in the blind early in the day. But the gentleman was really nice. We just kept in touch all throughout the day.
Mhm.
And opposite to Lila's field run, we were done like 20 minutes into the field run. We had everything they needed to see. They had points,
Bird,
they
bat,
had
pack,
bags,
retrieves.
yeah, retrieves, they had everything they needed to see 20 birds into the field run.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
we spent after that, it was water top. We found another bird. We shot it for him. They found another bird because we split at some point. And
Mm.
then, right, it was like, all right, well, let's spend some time here. We're just burning some time, and, water top, give him water, we're cracking stories.
Yeah.
And then by the end of it, when they told me lift him up, I knew now we were finally 100% done.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
that's when it personally really got to me. I mean, that's when I looked up, I said thank you, Laura, and I almost tear up, and I said we are done. We are absolutely done. I was celebrating before they read the scores, just because I
Me
didn't
too.
care what the score was. I knew we were in,
Yeah.
and that's everything that we were there for. So they had Kyle had I saw Kyle. He said, "Congratulations, he just ran a perfect test." And I'm like, I don't know, whatever. I don't care. We're in. That's all that matters.
Right.
And he had bought or whatever a gallon of water jar or whatever. So when they finally read the score, um, before I even got a moment to react to it, when they said the final score, I don't know how many bottles of water pour over me. it,
uh,
it was like I was all wet.
you didn't care one bit.
No, no, it was awesome. It was really awesome. I mean, the people, the judges, the people out there helping, everybody was really nice. Really, really nice. A really great team of judges both times. I was out in the field, in the water. Everything was really, really good. Properly set ups. Didn't hear of anything weird happening to people and stuff like that.
Yeah. And there's tests where like, I was at that one in Iowa and the grass was too tall and basically every dog had to get, and that's hard on the dog
Yeah.
when you can't make it as natural. But I mean, you had your challenges with Lila on Thursday,
Yeah.
but so for Leo, it was just like bird contact, point back, retrieve. That
Yeah.
that had to feel pretty good while that was going on.
Yeah, that was good. That was
That was
good.
like a training day.
Yeah, exactly. That was good. That was like right off the bat, we got a back, and then we had a point, and we had another back, and then retrieves, and it was like I
So
knew they have everything they need by now.
did did you have your phone ready to call your brother, or did you call him ahead of time thinking we got this? What did you do?
No, I think funny enough, before my brother or anybody else, it was actually Kim, my wife. She's the only one I kept in touch throughout both tests. Because I knew she put up with a lot before I got there. So I think the first one who got the notice was my wife. I said we're done. I think we're in. And then after that, I think I told my brother, and he was really, really excited. And then
Yeah.
I told Kyle. So, but the first one who got it was my wife, you know, because she did put up with a lot just for me to
It
make
is.
it there, you know.
It's when you think about it in hindsight, it, it's you're giving up basically the spring and summer. You're giving it up, right?
Hmm.
And you could think about a lot of other professions that could put a lot of strain on things, right?
Hmm.
So I that was a good call. I probably would have called my brother, but I wouldn't have let my wife know that I called my brother first.
Yeah, I agree. I
But,
would have done the same. I just somehow worked out that way.
yeah. To me, the best part is you told me. So when your brother gets there, you took off right for Montana.
Yes.
From because for one, you got to jump on the drive. It's still a long damn drive from
Yeah.
western or eastern Ohio. So you guys took off when for Montana?
Yes. Yes. The same night we were done, we packed it up. Kyle had a trailer full of dogs. We had two friends that came up the same day on Sunday that were gonna drive with him, and then we had John also coming up with us. So it was three trucks, six guys, you know. And so all the ones that got there on Sunday that were fresh, they all started driving. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so we hit it off, and we never stopped until we got there. So I
You
mean,
drove through the night and all the day, and
yeah, it
oh,
was.
to be young. And now Kyle's not that young, but he's got a little more girth than I do, probably.
He can pull through. You know, he hunted really, really hard when we were out there, and the
How
driving.
did
I
the,
think he did have a good. Oh, this is his thing. So Kyle had four dogs, and he passed all of them.
he
And
did
he
really?
did, yeah, he did. And Sunday, so Sunday I got to be a gunner. And I gun on Sunday, and I gun for him and his last dog that he was running,
Mm-hmm.
and that dog got a 200. So um, when we got home, he told Jerry, he said, "You're gonna drive. I'm gonna go back here and just sipping some bourbon and celebrate because we're done and we're going hunting." You know.
Right.
So he jumped in the back seat and said, "I'm gonna enjoy a little bit, and you guys drive for a bit." You know.
You drive, I'm having a drink.
Yeah.
That's great. How was the Montana trip? How did that treat you? I know you
Eh,
said it was hot and stuff, but how was Montana for you?
It was amazing. I never seen that many birds in my life. You know, the first place we went to, we got into coveys of hunts, and right off the bat, and you know, we hit a spot. Pheasants was not open, but we saw so many pheasants fly out of this tall cover, and it was just crazy. It was hard hunting. We hunted really hard. Never been out there. You know, everything wasn't butterflies and sunshine, and you know, we did
Right.
have our tough times sometimes to find birds, but we were successful. We found birds. We worked for them. My gosh, we have a video, which is the second part of our trip out there. There was nothing else I think going on in that video than shooting. There were so many birds.
Did you put that up on Upland Brothers already?
Yeah, yeah, it's the
I'll have
second
to look
part
at
of
it.
Montana.
I'll have to look at
I
it.
mean, Ron, I can only tell you we ran out of shells towards the end of the video, towards the end of the walk. We're coming back, and the dogs are going on point, and me and my brother look at each other, and we have two shells left. So, so I give him a shell, and I get one shell. We're like, bottom barrel shoots first, so make sure you put it there. And I mean, I think he took a shot and killed one, and I think I came back to the truck with one shell after that walk.
Oh
We
my
were out
God.
of water. I had shot my limit of sharptails and hunts on that walk.
Nice.
It was just beautiful. But that was like the highlight of the trip. That was day two. everything after that wasn't like that, you know. Not gonna tell people that it was like that all the time because it
Right.
wasn't. I mean, the day after that, we worked our tail off. We didn't get limits or anything like that, but you know, we did work hard. We found birds. Some birds were more spooky than others and all of
Yeah.
that. But overall, I mean, what a beautiful country. Um, it was just
And you've never
awesome.
been out west. This is your first trip out west, right?
Yes, first time. I never been out there. I got to do it again, and then I have to start doing all the other states now. So now,
Now, you know what though? I'd rather hear you say that than say, I'm gonna start training other people's dogs and I'm gonna work that. You already did what I would say is not the impossible because you did it. But like I said, when we started, I don't know anybody else with your amount of time in the game that pulled off what you, and maybe there is somebody, but they're if they were, they're probably a pro trainer. And I know a lot of pro trainers. Kyle's been there without passing all the dogs, and Clyde Vetter's been there without you know what I mean?
yeah,
You to
it's
go there with,
tough.
you know, the Upland brothers should have some kind of award for this thing. There's like if anybody else does it, you know, you should get a green jacket like the US Open or something.
I don't know. I honestly, you know, I like you said earlier, plenty of help. I mean,
You wouldn't get there without all the
no, I mean Kyle was a huge help. Rick Holt was a huge help, and his wife Michelle. I mean, there were. I remember one day I got out of work at noon, and we were gonna do honors. This is like a couple of weeks before the test. I haven't done a single honor, and we just leave that stuff for last, just because the dogs don't like it, you know. And they came out literally just to help me. I mean, like I did both of my dogs. I did a blind and an honor sequence with both of them. And when we were done, they're like, "All right, we're done. Pack it up. You can go home now." I'm like, "No way." They're like, "Yeah, that's it. We came out to help you." I'm like, "My gosh, I mean, isn't that nice? You know, that they literally came out just to help me."
just to help you. Yeah, they weren't
Yeah,
other than just to be there for you and your dogs.
they weren't even running their dogs. You
Right.
know, they literally came out just to help me, and you just can't beat that, you know?
Yeah. And that is something like in the field trial world. I mean, field trialers all know each other. I'm sure some of them work out together, but when you have a first, second, or third place only, you're worried about that's where you start getting worried about you, right?
Right.
And where you would probably do the same thing next year as to somebody that was there and say, yeah, I'm going to meet you here. We're going to do this. And you'd probably be just like they did to you. You'd be like, no, I'm good. I don't need my dog. I'm just here for you. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And I think that's part of it. I mean, I think we do it all along. I mean, Kyle showed me how to force fetch a dog, and then the next thing I was doing is, as I was learning it, I was showing it to my friend, and he force fetched his dog,
Right.
and then I had another friend who needed to force fetch their dog and did it. And like right before the invitational, we were running a test, and I had a friend call me and said I had steadiness issue in this in the test that just showed up, and I didn't know what's happening, and I have another test next week, and you know, and I said, this is Sunday. We're running a Friday, Saturday, Sunday test. And somehow I ended up being the president of the chapter when we are now this year, also while running Dogs for the Invitational. So I said to them that I would give them the best I could because now I'm also giving back that way. You know, we're organizing trainings, we're picking up birds, we are sending, we're helping new people, you know. So my friend, this is Sunday after a long 3-day weekend and taking Friday off from work to be out there and all that. And I said, I'll be there Monday after work. Get 10 birds and I'm going to give you a hand, you know. So I did that Monday and then they were running Saturday. I said, you need one more session. And then I said, I'm going to get together with you Friday and we'll run the dog again. And we did. And the dog did really good on steadiness in the field. It got all force on steadiness the next day. So that stuff pays off, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's part of giving back. And if you don't give back, then it just doesn't work. You can't just keep it all to you only, you know?
Right. That's I mean, I would say that's a great way to end it, because what we do in the testing world, there'll be people like, oh yeah, well, I don't test my dog. But you got to know, like when you went to Montana, not saying your dog has handled wild sharptails or huns before, but I'll bet you they did a good job without ever being there before, because they had that structure. They if you have a dog that crowds a bird in a test, it's going to crowd a bird in the wild bird field, right?
Right. Yeah.
Do you think I shouldn't say it? I know the training paid off. Were you out there in Montana with a lot of other dogs that were all test dogs, and did you have anybody who was like, oh, I just want to come with, and I've never done this before, because that's where you see the rubber meets the road sometimes. You're like,
No,
well, if you worked on this a little bit and played with us, you have all NAVHDA and Federation people with you.
yeah, it was, everybody had dogs that backed, I think is probably
Yeah.
the most important thing. And when it comes to the steadiness, I'm particularly not picky when we go hunting, we go hunting. I think Kyle is that way too. So if they're breaking after that bird flushes, we're okay with it, with
They
shooting
know the
that bird.
difference. They know the
Yeah,
difference.
they do 100%. So, but they have to back because you don't
Right.
want them to interfere with the point, or at least you should be able to ward the dog.
Right.
So,
Right.
but everybody out there was, yeah, they all test dogs in NAVHDA and Federation, and some of them were newer than others, and some of them have puppies, and they're puppies, and you got to work with that. But they
Yeah.
all the puppies backed, so that's always nice, I think.
Yeah. I hunted on my way home from the UP. I think it was 2 weeks ago, with a friend of mine that I've made through NAVHDA, Lisa and Peter, and they've always invited me to their cabin, but I've never been there. And I was in the UP. I'm like, I got an extra day. And I called them up and said, yeah, come on down. We'll have some drinks. We'll go hunt tomorrow morning. And I had Tagus, who has not got a lot of experience. He's only run an NA test. His point's real good, but I've literally never seen him with another dog. Like now we're in the grouse woods, right? And he came up. Now it could be that he smelled the bird, but Pete's dog was good. I mean, good. It's a short hair. It's good. Like this dog, we got to the truck. Pete's smoking a cigar. Pete walks in the grouse woods like this with a big fat, like 50 millimeter cigar. Pete walks like this with his gun. And he just waits for the beeper collar to go off. And he just walks through so calm, right? And it took about 3 times with the beeper, where Tagus was like, oh, the beeper, he's never had a beeper on his neck, but
Yeah,
the beeper means bird, right?
yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, oh no, he's gonna come up. I don't know if he backed or if he smelled it, but the good thing was, even if a dog smells it for the first time and it looks like a back,
Yeah,
he didn't like a young dog, and he was a much younger dog than the short hair. He didn't decide to go in front of the other dog for another, you know what I mean? So I was
yeah,
like, that's a win. Well, that was
exactly.
good, because Pete wouldn't have cared. He would have been, we'd have shot the bird. But
Right.
it's like, he was like, hey, tag us back. I'm like, yes. And
Yeah.
I haven't done any. So that's natural.
Yeah. It's
But
it's beautiful when you see that.
but then that to me is something that there are natural ones, but they usually are because they've, like, I got buddies that go to North Dakota all the time. There's a picture of like 8 dogs all pointing and backing, right? But they hunt together all the time. But if you get that dog that you trained and hunts with another dog, you do have a much better odds that your dog is not. I think that piece of training goes to them. And if you let them go on, instead of shot and fall, if you let them go at wing, you'll get that back if you're training. But training at that high level, you got a better dog when you're wild bird hunting for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you get dogs that do nice retrieves. I mean, you send them, they go out, I mean, retrieving is so important. They
Yeah.
bringing birds back to you. Maybe you clip. I think the first day down in Montana, I only realized it until I watched the video when we were editing it. Was a covey of huns, and we shot a couple birds out of it, maybe even three. And I only saw it later, but I see that Leo actually took off after a bird that we had hit, and he
Mhm.
was he went over a hill. I never even saw it like when we were out there because everything that was going on. And before you knew it, he was coming back with the bird in his mouth, you know.
Yeah.
We don't know, like we don't realize that, like, well, Leo, good boy, nice
Right.
retrieve, and we get it. And then when I see the video afterwards, I'm like, wow, he actually chased that bird that was hit and
Right.
saw it and brought it back.
So that's where that training, he's like, yeah, that's a bird going down. They see birds going. There are a lot of dogs that they wouldn't know if that bird was hit or not hit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn it. I can't tell you. I'm not saying I haven't had anything to do with you or your dog's training, but getting to know you and your brother and connecting with Kyle and everybody out east, I couldn't be happier for you. I mean, and I'm praying, like you said, you're not going to get the license plate, and I hope your next dog is 3 years away. You just get to hunt for the next 3 years with those two dogs.
I can't say it's gonna be 3 years ago, but I will hunt. It's not 3 years ahead, but I will hunt with my two dogs for sure.
Are are you thinking about another dog here?
Yeah, I think maybe we'll get another dog. I'm looking at possibly moving and getting a little bigger place so I could take in another dog. You go out west, and I want to do a lot of that, and you run out of dog power pretty quickly if you got one or two dogs only.
Yeah.
So
So is that in the next 12 months, or is that in the next three years?
I think there's probably one in the next 12 months and another one in the next 3 years.
Oh boy. The bug has bitten. You are scratching the mosquito bite now.
Oh, that's for sure. I don't think you can ever get me out of this.
Well, I someday I hope I sounds like you're probably going to be hooked on Montana for a while. Are you planning on that one next year again?
I think so. I think I'll probably go back, but I don't think I'm a person who likes to go back and like hit the same spot every time or hunt the same place.
Yeah.
I think I'm more of like I like to go and explore new places. I
Yeah.
tell my brother, I'm only gonna live so long and I only have so many years and so many hunting trips I can do in my life. So might as well try a new place every year,
Yeah.
and maybe we can go back to the one place, but maybe we can go chase the bird in a different state. So I think I'm more on that side, but I would love to go back to Montana at least one more time, and maybe obviously back in another year or so, but maybe go there for a week, maybe go, maybe Idaho for another week, something like that.
Oh, you just got to get more time off work, Alberto.
Oh yeah. Well,
That's
I
all.
got to figure out how to make money on this, so I don't have to go to work during the bird season.
Maybe you can pull some double shifts or something. I don't know. Just say, hey, listen, boss, I'll be the best employee you've ever had. I just need October off.
Well,
Uh,
I need that, and then I need another 2 weeks to take my wife out on vacation, so
well,
I had to compensate.
I'm glad that you're aware of that. I'm glad you're aware of that. But any adventure you have, I'm the same way. I go to places because now I can with being retired, but I always like going to new places. And it didn't matter if it was about being with my friends and like, oh wow, I've never been here before. And when you get a bird in a new place, that's pretty special. You know,
Yes.
it's not like putting a trail cam out and being a deer hunter. It's like, all right, my dog knows what to do. I've never been here, and we gotta figure it out. So, no, I think a little expansion is good, but I know that once you go somewhere and you have that Montana experience that one day, it'll drag you there at least one more time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's hard to beat that. It really is. The one thing the itch that I got is, and this is my fault. It really is 100% my fault. I think I like everything about this. I like the dogs. I like the people. I like the shooting. I
Mhm.
like the hunting. So you know, when I'm out there, I'm hunting. So for, you know, and a little bit of that kind of sets me back because I'm not paying that much attention to the training. You know,
Right.
as long as I can get up there, that I can flush that bird, I can shoot it, the
Right.
dogs retrieve it, I'm fine with that. And if they bump it, maybe I'll shoot it too. And if they bump it again, maybe I shoot it, unless I notice that that's interfering with their point and whatnot. And they're starting to get a little bit naughty. So I think the one itch I have to go back to Montana is to maybe control my finger a little bit and just let the dogs work the bird a little bit more, you know, before I can shoot him and all of that, because there's plenty of them out there.
Right. You go out there maybe on some trip in the future with just a little better dog control. But you know what? I say F it. Just
Yeah.
let the as long as as long as you don't see him tunnel in and take a covey out,
Yeah,
have fun with it. Have fun. It
that's right.
sounds like that's what you do. That's your I think you see I've seen people get into this sport, and you know, it is kind of a sport, kind of testing
Mhm.
the dog. And it's either about limits or it's about performance. And I think you got the right blend. It's about the dogs, the camaraderie, and and if you happen to be the only guy your age that passed two dogs at the Invitational without a license plate, I'll be glad to know you the rest of my life.
Yeah, then so be it. That's all that matters. I mean, just having fun and enjoying the time with the people really is. The people is also big in this, is the dogs and the people, you know.
Yeah, I've changed that over the years. For me, it's the people and the dogs. But that's because I'm on dog 23 now. It's like, dogs are good, but
Yeah,
you know what? When I talk to my best friend every morning, I can't. My dogs don't listen to me. They're tired of listening to me. So I want to talk to my buddies. But listen, I think this is. Oh, we almost hit 2 hours, but I think we got the crux of this. And I'm gonna just say it again. Congratulations. I'm sure you've heard it a lot, but
appreciate it. Thank you.
on something that I say that nobody else has, and somebody could correct me, but I'll go to court and say like, no, you did something that nobody I know has done, and still loves to hunt wild birds and lets the dogs get a little, you know.
That's for sure. No, thank you. I appreciate it big time. But like I said, I'm just happy it happened that way. We trained for it, but I never set out to be that way. So I mean, to everybody that's been around me, big thank you. I mean, to my wife and and then to God, because really everything came through and it was more than I ever expected and I ever wanted or looked for. It was never the goal, but it just happened to be, and we went with it.
Uh, I couldn't be happier for you, and I hope I'm sure our paths will cross again when I get out east this year.
That's for sure.
All right, sounds great.
All right. Thank you, Ron. Appreciate
I'm
it.
gonna end this recording. Let's see if that works. Oh, nope. Well, you know me. Talk to you later, Alberto.